The silent signal. The night in space was quiet, only the usual hum of distant stars, on the edge of known territory. A human listening post drifted in silence, its crew tired and half asleep. Then it came. A broken signal, filled with static. Filled with fear, the young operator named Daniel leaned closer to the console, his eyes wide as the sound repeated. It was not just noise, it was a distress call. His hands shook as he turned the volume up. The words became clear. "They are burning our cities. The Council has betrayed us. Valoran is falling." Then the signal cut off, replaced by screams, explosions, and silence. Daniel looked at his commander, an older officer named Captain Harris. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The words hung heavy in the cold room. Valorans were not enemies. They were friends, allies from long ago. Humans had signed treaties with them, shared knowledge and built trust, and now, the Galaxy Council had turned against them. The crew gathered, whispering in shock. Why would the Council do this? The Council was supposed to keep peace, to stop wars, not start them. The humans had stayed quiet in galactic politics for many years, careful not to provoke, careful not to draw attention. But this was different. Captain Harris ordered the recording to be locked and encrypted. He knew this was bigger than any of them. "Send it to Earth Command. Immediately," he said, his voice hard. "The world must hear this." The transmission traveled across light years, reaching hidden chambers deep beneath Earth. Leaders gathered in secret to listen. Presidents, generals, scientists, all sat in silence as the broken message played. The screams of Valoran children echoed in the hall. Anger filled every face. Some argued for patience. Maybe it is a mistake. Maybe the Council had reasons. Others slammed fists on the table. They killed our allies. They slaughtered a people under protection. This cannot be ignored. The room burned with debate, but under all the words was one truth. Humanity could not remain silent. Meanwhile, on the ruined world of Valoran, the sky burned red. The Council fleets hovered above, raining fire on cities. Survivors hid underground, waiting for help that would never come, or so they thought. One young Valoran named Lyra clutched a small transmitter, her scales shimmering with soot and ash. She pressed the button again and again, praying someone out there was listening. Back on the human listening post, Daniel stared at the stars. He felt small, powerless, yet something stirred inside him. He had seen the Council ships before, proud, arrogant, believing themselves untouchable, but now he imagined human warships rising again. Old ships hidden for decades, engines roaring to life. He whispered to himself, "They think we will stay silent. They have no idea what is coming." The Council meanwhile celebrated in their great hall. Alien lords toasted victory. They spoke of balance, of removing weak allies. They laughed at the thought of humans acting. "Earth is quiet, Earth is weak. They will do nothing," said one counselor with a cruel smile. Others nodded. But in the shadows, an old ambassador, wrinkled and silent, whispered words only to himself. "You have no idea what you have awoken." Across Earth, secret bases began to stir. Engineers entered long-sealed hangars, dust covering massive hulls. They ran hands over ancient steel, forgotten warships that had not seen starlight in years. Alarms echoed as systems powered up. One by one, the sleeping giants opened their eyes. The people of Earth did not know yet. Streets bustled as always, children played, markets sold goods, but in hidden rooms leaders prepared. They knew what must be done. Humanity had stayed silent to avoid war, to avoid notice. But the massacre of Valoran had changed everything. Silence was no longer an option. Daniel sat at his console, the signal replaying in his head. The screams, the fire, the betrayal. He clenched his fists. He did not know the shape of what was coming, but he knew this. Humanity would answer, and when they answered, the galaxy would remember. The stars outside twinkled cold and eternal. But for the first time, in a long time, something in the human heart burned brighter. The silent signal had been heard, and the fury of Earth was rising. The Council's decree far above the ruined world of Valoran. The Council gathered inside their shining chamber. The hall was vast, with walls of silver and light. Alien voices echoed as leaders of many races argued and mocked. Yet none spoke of mercy, only of control. At the center stood High Chancellor Sarek, his skin glowing with pale green patterns, his eyes cold like frozen stone. He raised his hand and silence fell. "The Valorans are finished," he declared. "They were weak, and weakness cannot be allowed in this galaxy." Around him sat dozens of counselors. Each from powerful species, they nodded in agreement. Some laughed, some cheered, their voices harsh and proud. They called it justice. They called it balance. But in truth it was massacre. In a shadowed corner, Ambassador Kell, Endier, elder from a race older than most, watched silently, his face unreadable. He remembered the old wars. He remembered the first time humans had entered the council chamber many decades ago. He remembered the fire in their eyes. Now he whispered to himself, "You fools, you think humans are tame." The council dismissed the cries of survivors. They silenced news broadcasts. They sent patrol fleets to destroy any signal that might escape. But they had not silenced everything. The small transmission that Daniel caught had already reached Earth, and soon the galaxy would feel the weight of that mistake. A young Valoran prisoner was dragged into the chamber. Her name was Lyra, the last daughter of a burned city. Scales torn and bruised, she was forced to kneel before the Chancellor. "Your people are gone," Sarek sneered. "Their screams will vanish into dust. No one will save you." But Lyra looked up, her voice shaking yet strong. "Humans will come," she whispered. "And when they come, you will know fear." Her words made some counselors laugh. Others spat in disgust. Only Ambassador Kell leaned forward, his eyes sharp. He knew the weight of those words. The decree was announced, loud and final. The Valorans are erased, their worlds claimed by the Council. No race shall question this. The chamber filled with cheers. Banners of power waved in the air. Yet in the shadows the fear of one word remained: humans. While the Council celebrated, the galaxy listened. Secret channels carried whispers. Smugglers, traitors, refugees, all spread the same story. The Council killed the Valorans, and another whisper followed close behind. What will Earth do? Back on Earth, leaders gathered again. They read the transcript of the decree, their faces dark. Humanity had avoided open war with the Council for decades. They had played the role of quiet traitors, builders, scientists. But now the mask was cracking. General Alvarez slammed his hand on the table. "They think we are weak," he said. "They think we will stay silent while our friends burn. No more, it is time." Others hesitated. Some warned of risk. The Council controls thousands of fleets, entire armadas. Their power is endless. But Alvarez shook his head. "They do not know what we have hidden." In the great shipyards beneath the oceans, titans stirred. Forgotten warships rose slowly from the dark waters. Engineers wiped rust from armor thicker than mountains. Reactors hummed with life. One ship, the Dreadnought Invictus, lit its engines for the first time in a century. The sea boiled above it. Citizens of Earth did not yet know the full truth. But rumors spread. Soldiers began training in secret bases. Pilots vanished into black sites. Entire industries shifted to hidden production. Humanity was preparing step by step. Silently, carefully, far across the stars, Council patrols hunted any sign of resistance. One fleet commander laughed as he watched Valoran survivors scatter into the void. "Let them run, no one will help them," he said, but then his aide whispered, "Sir, there are reports human ships are moving." The commander scoffed. Patrol boats, nothing more. But deep in his heart, doubt crept in. Ambassador Kell left the council chamber that night with heavy steps. He looked at the sky, stars glittering cold above. He remembered ancient human battles, the time when humanity had fought predator races and survived. He whispered softly, "The decree is not the end, it is the beginning." On the listening post, Daniel sat awake, replaying the signal again and again. He could still hear the words, "Of the Valoran girl, humans will come." He clenched his fists. He did not know how, he did not know when, but he believed He believed Earth would rise. The galaxy did not yet know it, but the Council's decree had set fire to the future, and that fire was spreading. It would not stop, it would not fade, and soon, vengeance would come riding on human warships. The gathering stormed deep beneath the surface of Earth, in a chamber where no sunlight reached. The leaders of humanity gathered. The long table stretched across the hall, faces hard and grim. The distress call from Valoran still echoed in their ears. The decree of the Council burned in their hearts. President Adams spoke first, her voice steady but heavy. We can no longer remain silent. We stayed quiet to keep peace, to avoid war. But the Council has crossed the line. If we allow this, then tomorrow it will be us. The generals nodded, their eyes sharp. General Alvarez leaned forward. We have ships. We have weapons. We have men ready to fight. They believe we are weak. They have no idea what we have hidden. He paused, his hand clenched into a fist. But to strike, we must awaken the old fleet. Whispers filled the chamber. The old fleet, sealed away after the last human wars. Ships too dangerous, too powerful. Hidden beneath oceans, buried in ice, stored in secret vaults. Engines silent for generations. Now the thought of awakening them sent chills across the room. A scientist named Dr. Miriam spoke softly. The Invictus is ready. We have kept it alive, waiting for the day it would be needed. We also have the Leviathan, the Colossus, and others, but bringing them back will require time and sacrifice. The president looked around the room, eyes meeting each leader. The galaxy thinks we will bow our heads, but humanity has never bowed. Not to predators, not to empires, not to fear. We will rise, we will answer, we will bring fury. Far away, in the burning ruins of Valoran, survivors clung to life, hidden in underground tunnels. Children cried. In silence, mothers held them close. One old warrior whispered stories of humans, how they had once stood against impossible odds, how they had broken chains and fought back predators. They will come, he told the young ones. They will hear us, and when they come, the stars will tremble. Meanwhile, in secret shipyards, work began. Hammers rang, sparks flew, giant engines were tested. Dreadnought hulls shook as power returned to their cores. Men and women worked day and night, sweat dripping, eyes filled with determination. They knew they were building more than ships. They were building hope. Pilots trained. In hidden skies, fighter craft roared through black clouds. New recruits trembled in their seats. Veterans barked orders. Again, faster, sharper. You are not fighting machines. You are fighting the Council. They will not forgive mistakes. Across the stars, the Council tightened its grip. Propaganda spread across alien worlds. The Valorans were traitors, they claimed. Their end was justice. Fleets patrolled borders. Searching for human movements, they saw small transports, scouts, nothing more. They laughed, secure in their power. But in the quiet of their war rooms, doubt grew. Reports came in. Strange signals near Earth, unusual movement of resources, whispers of ancient warships stirring. The Council dismissed them. Yet some commanders felt unease. Back on the listening post, Daniel could not sleep. He kept watching the stars, waiting for another signal. He remembered the voice of Lyra, the Valoran girl. Her words burned into him. Humans will come. He believed her. He believed Earth would rise, he whispered to himself. We are coming. Ambassador Kell moved through shadowed corridors in the Council capital. He listened to councilors boasting, laughing, blind to danger. He shook his head. Arrogant fools, he thought. You have no idea what is about to fall upon you. He knew humanity's history. He had read of their old wars, of times when empires tried to break them and failed, if they had truly awakened their old fleet. Then the Council had called down a storm it could not control. As weeks passed, Earth changed, factories shifted from peace to war. Satellites carried coded signals across systems. Old alliances whispered back to life. Valoran refugees reached human space, their stories fueling anger. Soldiers volunteered in numbers unseen before. Ordinary men and women swore oaths. For Valoran, for Earth, for the fallen. In hidden valleys, giant cannons were tested. The thunder shook mountains in orbital docks. Fleets gathered, ships gleaming, freshly armed, ready for the void. Commanders inspected lines of soldiers, their voices hard. You are the shield. You are the sword. When you go into battle, you do not fight for Earth alone. You fight for every ally betrayed, every child burned, every voice silenced. The storm was building, slow but unstoppable, and though the galaxy laughed at Earth's silence, soon the laughter would end. For when the storm broke, it would break with the fury of humanity, and nothing could stand in its path. The first clash. The void above the ruins of Valoran was silent. Smoke still rose from broken cities. The stars glittered cold. A fleet of Council patrol ships drifted. Near orbit, their hulls glowing with arrogance, they searched for survivors, their scanners sweeping the blackness. Commander Vaynar, a tall alien with silver skin, sat on the bridge of his cruiser, his voice calm. The Valorans are finished. Sweep the debris, destroy any remaining ships, no witnesses. His crew obeyed, their laughter echoing. To them it was routine. Another world silenced, another victory for the Council. But then, the silence broke. Sensors screamed. A sudden burst of unknown energy tore across the scanners. The crew gasped as shapes appeared from the dark, at first faint, like shadows rising from nothing. Then clearer, metal, giants emerging from hidden jump points, contacts, an officer shouted. Unknown vessels, massive signature they are. Human. Vaynar laughed. Humans here, what are they doing? They have no fleets, only cargo ships. This will be amusing. He leaned back, amused, prepared to destroy them. But when the first human warship came into view, the laughter died. The vessel was enormous, armor thick as mountains, cannons glowing with power. Its name burned on the hull, Invictus, the dreadnought of Earth. The human captain, Elena Graves, stood tall on her bridge, her voice steady. Target the lead cruiser, fire when ready. Her crew obeyed, hands steady, eyes burning with purpose. The ship's main cannon roared, light brighter than a sun tore across the void. In a single strike, the Council cruiser split apart, exploding into fire and dust. Shock filled the alien. Fleet voices screamed, impossible, impossible. One shot, one shot. Their ship scrambled, firing wildly. Beams of energy lit the void, but the Invictus moved like a beast awake from slumber. Its shields absorbed the fire. Its guns answered with fury. More human ships appeared. Leviathan, Colossus, and smaller escorts. Their formation precise, their firepower devastating. Each blast tore through Council vessels. In minutes, 5 cruisers were burning wrecks. Debris scattered across space. On the Council flagship, panic grew. They cannot have such ships. It is forbidden. They were disarmed. They were weak. Commander Vaynar's hands shook, his arrogance gone. Retreat, retreat now, he shouted. But it was too late. Human fighters screamed across the void, fast and merciless, swarming Council ships. Cutting through defenses, the sky above Valoran burned with battle. The Council fleet shattered. Down on the surface, survivors hiding underground saw the fire in the sky. They trembled, not with fear but with hope. One child pointed at the heavens. Look, look, they have come. The humans have come. Whispers spread through the dark tunnels. The storm has arrived. On the bridge of the Invictus, Captain Graves stood silent, watching the enemy break. She spoke calmly. Let one escape. Let them run. Let them tell the Council what they saw. Her officers obeyed. One Council ship fled, engines burning as it vanished into the void, carrying terror with it. Back in the Council capital hours later, the survivors of that fleet arrived, their voices shaking as they reported. Human warships, dreadnoughts, unstoppable. They destroyed us in minutes. The Council chamber erupted in panic. Some shouted disbelief, some demanded explanations, others trembled in silence. Ambassador Kell watched from his seat, his eyes grim. You called them weak, he whispered. You slaughtered their allies. Now you will face the price. On Earth, celebrations erupted quietly in secret bases. The first clash was victory, but leaders warned, this is only the beginning. The Council will not forgive. They will come with everything they have. General Alvarez stood before soldiers. His voice thundered. You have seen their strength, now you know our power, but remember, this war is not for conquest. It is for justice. It is for Valoran. It is for every life the Council burned. Daniel, still on the listening post, heard the news and smiled. For the first time, he whispered into the stars. "They heard you, Lyra, they came." His hands shook with pride. Far away, on Valoran soil, Lyra herself emerged from the tunnels, her eyes filled with tears. She saw human dropships landing, soldiers stepping out, offering food, medicine, safety. She fell to her knees, whispering. They kept their promise. Humans came. The galaxy would never be the same again. The first clash had ended not in silence but in fire, and with it the age of human fury had begun. Fury of Earth news of the first clash spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Smugglers whispered it in hidden stations. Traders carried it from world to world. Refugees told the tale with trembling voices. The Council fleet was broken. Humans have awakened their warships. Many laughed in disbelief, but others trembled because deep inside they knew it was true. On Earth, the awakening had begun. The oceans roared as more titans rose from the depths. Leviathan, Colossus, Aegis, Odyssey. Each ship a giant of steel and fire, their hulls glowing with new life, their cannons armed and ready. In orbit, massive carriers filled with fighters formed battle groups, their engines blazing. The sky above Earth no longer empty but alive with the promise of vengeance. Factories across continents shifted into war production. Cities glowed at night with the light of endless work. Young men and women left their homes standing in long lines, swearing oaths to fight. Pilots trained day and night. Soldiers drilled in hidden bases. Even scientists left their labs to serve. For the cry of Valoran had touched every heart. President Adams addressed her people in a broadcast carried through secret channels, her words simple. We are no longer silent, we are no longer waiting. The Council believes we are weak, but we are strong. We will rise not for conquest, but for justice. Humanity fights not alone, but for every ally betrayed, for every voice silenced, for Valoran. Her words thundered across the world, and every ear that heard them burned with resolve. Meanwhile, in the ruins of Valoran, human soldiers moved through the streets giving food, medicine, and safety. Survivors wept as they saw the humans, for they had believed all hope lost. Lyra, the young Valoran girl, walked beside Captain Graves, her eyes filled with tears. You came, she whispered. Graves placed a hand on her shoulder. We keep our promises. But vengeance was not only in saving lives. Human fleets struck back, raiding Council outposts, liberating prisoners, destroying supply lines. Their attacks were swift, precise, merciless. Council ships that once moved with arrogance now moved with fear. For every time they entered battle, human firepower shattered them. In one battle above a mining colony, a Council fleet of 10 cruisers blocked the path. The humans answered with only 3 warships. The fight lasted minutes when it ended. The Council fleet was ash and wreckage. The survivors fled screaming, they cannot be stopped. Across alien worlds, races once silent began to whisper, if humans can fight the Council, perhaps we can too. Small rebellions sparked. Old enemies of the Council rose from shadows inspired by the fury of Earth. Inside the Council chamber, chaos grew. Leaders shouted, demanded answers. Some wanted to crush Earth at once. Others trembled, fearing what more secrets humanity might hide. High Chancellor Sarek roared, they are one world, we are thousands, we will burn them. But Ambassador Kell rose slowly and said, one world with fire in its soul can burn an empire of thousands. You do not understand what you have created. Back on Earth, Daniel watched the reports flow across his screen. Every victory, every strike, every rescue, he felt his chest swell with pride. Once he had been a simple operator listening to the void. Now he was the witness of history. He whispered into the dark. They wanted silence, but they will hear us now. General Alvarez stood before his army. Rows of soldiers stretched across the field. His voice thundered. You are the shield of humanity. You are the sword of justice. When you march, remember Valoran. Remember the children they burned. Remember the promise we made. The galaxy will remember your steps. And so humanity marched, their fleets spreading across the stars. Their war cry echoing, not of conquest, not of empire, but of fury and justice. The fury of Earth. The galaxy, once blind, now watched with wide eyes. For the storm had broken, and it carried the roar of human warships. The Council's fear. The Council chamber was no longer a place of calm power. It had become a storm of voices, shouts, and arguments filled the great hall. Once they had spoken with arrogance, now they spoke with fear. Reports arrived every hour. Human fleets destroying patrols. Human soldiers liberating colonies. Human warships defeating armadas thought invincible. High Chancellor Sarek slammed, his hand against the table, his face twisted with rage. This cannot be. They are one world against thousands, yet they bleed us every day. They shame us in front of the galaxy. His voice cracked with anger. But behind the anger was fear. Counselors screamed over each other. Send more fleets. Burn their world. Negotiate before it is too late. No one agreed. The hall shook with chaos. In the shadows, Ambassador Kell watched. His face heavy, he whispered softly, "Your empire is built on lies, and lies crumble when truth rises. Humans are the truth you feared." Messages from across the galaxy poured in. Rebellions flared. Old subjects rose against council rule. Some declared open defiance, others simply stopped obeying. The myth of council power was breaking, because if humans could fight and win, then anyone could. In hidden rooms, the council plotted. "We must strike Earth itself," one general said. "We must burn their home before they grow stronger." But another warned, "Every fleet we send is destroyed. If we fail, it will be the end of us." Their voices carried desperation, not confidence. Meanwhile, on Earth, the awakening was complete. The sky above the planet glittered with warships, carriers, dreadnoughts, and escorts. Fleets stretched from horizon to horizon. Humanity had become a storm. Soldiers filled transports. Pilots sat in cockpits ready to launch. And the people of Earth watched with pride and sorrow, knowing their sons and daughters were going to war. President Adams stood before her people once more, her voice calm. "We did not choose this war. The Council brought it to us when they slaughtered Valoran. We fight not for empire, but for justice. We fight so no ally will fear betrayal again. Humanity does not seek to rule, but we will never kneel." Her words carried not just across Earth, but across the galaxy through secret channels, fueling hope in the darkest corners. On the ruined world of Valoran, Lyra watched the rebuilding begin. Human engineers constructed shelters. Soldiers patrolled streets. Children laughed again for the first time in months. She stood on a hill with Captain Graves, her eyes wet with tears. "You kept your word. You gave us life when all was lost." Graves nodded. "But this is only the beginning. More worlds suffer. We cannot stop until the Council answers for all of them." Across the stars, Council commanders grew restless. Fleets gathered in secret, their admirals trembling as they looked at maps filled with red marks of human victories. One whispered, "How can one world fight like this?" Another answered in a hollow voice, "Because they are human, and humans do not stop." In taverns and markets, smugglers, traders, and wanderers shared tales of human battles. "I saw a human ship tear apart 5 cruisers alone." There, dreadnoughts rise from oceans as if the planet itself gives birth to war. They fight not for power, but for vengeance. The galaxy listened, and the legend of Earth grew. Daniel sat at his console, his eyes heavy from endless nights, but his heart alive. He had become the first witness, the one who heard the silent signal. Now he watched the storm he helped awaken. Every battle report felt like vindication. He whispered, "They thought you were weak. They thought wrong." The council leaders gathered one final time in secret, their voices broken. "If we cannot stop them, they will end us," one said. Sarek hissed, "We are the council. We cannot fall to humans." But his words rang hollow. Fear was in his eyes, for deep down he knew humanity was no longer the quiet race they once mocked. They were a force of fire and steel. And in the silence of that chamber, Ambassador Kell spoke the words none dared. "You feared them for decades, you mocked their silence, you thought them small, now they rise, and when they come, nothing you have will save you." The storm was closing in. The galaxy could feel it. The Council's fear had become real, and humanity's vengeance had only begun. Vengeance complete. The stars above the Council capital burned bright. Fleets of warships surrounded the system. Thousands of alien vessels stood ready. Commanders shouted orders. Soldiers filled barracks. The Council had gathered everything. It had. This was their last stand. But from the black of space came a sight that silenced even the boldest voices. Human warships, endless in number. Dreadnoughts, carriers, escorts, all moving in formation, their hulls glowing with fire, their engines blazing like suns. At the front was the Invictus, its cannons alive with power. Behind it the Leviathan, the Colossus, and dozens more. The storm had arrived. On the bridge of the Invictus, Captain Elena Graves stood calm, her eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. "Today we show them why humanity will never kneel," she said. Her crew answered with a single roar. "For Earth, for Valoran." The Council fleet fired first. Beams of energy lit the void. Missiles screamed across space. Explosions filled the darkness, but the human ships did not falter. Shields flared, armor shook, and then humanity answered. Cannons thundered. Light brighter than stars filled the sky. Human fire tore through alien fleets. Dreadnoughts split apart. Cruisers burned. Fighters swarmed like furious storms. The void became fire. The battle raged, and for every human ship lost, 10 Council vessels fell. Inside the Council chamber, leaders trembled as reports came in. "Our fleets are breaking. They are unstoppable. They will reach the capital," voices cried in terror. High Chancellor Sarek's face drained of pride, his words hollow. How can this be? But he already knew the answer. Ambassador Kell stood tall, his voice heavy. "This is the vengeance you earned. You brought this upon yourselves when you slaughtered Valoran, when you mocked humanity. You thought them silent, but silence was only the breath before the storm." On Valoran, survivors watched the broadcast through human networks. They saw the fire in the skies of the Council capital. They saw the storm unleashed. Children cheered. Old warriors wept. Lyra stood among them, whispering, "They came. They truly came." Back on Earth, people gathered in cities, watching the same battle on great screens. Their voices rose together, not in fear but in pride, for the children of Earth were no longer hiding. They were showing the galaxy who they truly were. The battle raged until at last the human fleet surrounded the capital world. The Council's last defenses crumbled. Surrender signals filled the air. Ships powered down. Weapons went dark. The once mighty empire of the Council lay broken, but humanity did not finish with fire. Captain Graves ordered the fleet to hold, her voice steady. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to demand justice." Dropships descended upon the Council capital. Human soldiers marched through grand streets, their steps echoing. Survivors of Valoran walked with them, Lyra among them, her head held high. The image of a child who had seen her world burn, now walking beside humans, spread across the galaxy. And in that moment, every race understood. In the chamber where decrees of death had once been spoken, now stood human commanders in Valoran, survivors. Sarek trembled on his throne, his voice small. "What do you want?" Captain Graves looked at him with cold eyes. "We want truth. We want justice. You will answer for your crimes. You will never again slaughter those who trusted you." The Council, broken and afraid, bowed their heads for the first time in history. They obeyed, not because of fear alone, but because they had seen what humanity was capable of. They had seen vengeance forged into steel. They had seen fire turned into justice. The galaxy changed that day. Old powers crumbled. New hope rose. Small races who had lived in fear stood taller. They whispered, "Humans fight for us, not for power, but for life itself." Daniel, still at his listening post, received the final transmission, the signal that declared victory. He leaned back, eyes wet with pride. He whispered into the void. The silent signal was heard, and the galaxy will never forget. On Valoran, beneath rebuilt skies, children laughed, and Lyra looked to the horizon, her voice soft. The humans kept their promise. And far, above, human fleets drifted through the stars. Guardians now, not conquerors, a reminder to the galaxy that when Earth rose in fury, no empire could stand. The vengeance was complete, but it was not born of hate. It was born of justice, and the galaxy would remember it for all time.